first of all, in Syracuse, New York, for various reasons, some of them related to new laws that were just passed, we have become the juvenile gun violence capital of New York State, a really ignominious title to have garnered.
There's always been issues. There's been issues for years, ever since the inception of law enforcement, even in the last decade before 2020. Now we're in a place where in 2020, we had multiple use of force incidents, deadly force incidents, and then there was a lot of turmoil around that. And the way I saw that is people really didn't know how to interpret those things.
PAL is about hope. We got to give young people hope. We got to give policemen hope, because they're people. They have families. They're not some robot. They have families. They want to go home to their family every night. They want to have successful children.
The police are part of the community, all right? And they're not robots. They're not AI. It's not like some type of artificial being. These are people, all right, that have loved ones, that have families, that go to the same churches and malls and grocery stores and schools. Their children go to the same schools. It's important that people realize that, but that's not on the part of just the general public. That's also on the part of the police, because they also have to be mindful of their professionalism. They have to be mindful of the way that they interact with the community, because the moment that they are not at that level where they're being mindful and intentional in their professionalism, that's when you start to lose that trust of the community, right? And they start to see you as other.
Historically, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and played in PAL baseball every year till I was about 15 or 16, and then played in high school. I loved it. I thought it was a great opportunity to develop character. I thought it would be perfect for Syracuse, and I've probably been talking about it for 20, 25 years. The response was always, "That's a great idea, see you later." There's actually some pushback from various police officers. Didn't want the extra burden and the time to be spent with it and stuff like that. And then some chiefs just would give you lip service and say, it's a great idea, but let's move on. And then we got Mayor Walsh, and he loved the idea.
I was the Deputy Commissioner of Parks and Recreation and Youth Programs. I was running senior programs. I was running our aquatics program, and overseeing our youth rec, and building community coalition. That's what I was doing. What was happening nationally with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and others. And it was trickling down to Syracuse. It brought up a lot of not so good situations that our city had been in. And those individuals went to the folks who lead our city and said, these are our demands. This is what we want to see happen. We want better relationships with our police. We want our police living in our community. We don't want police stopping and frisking us, beating us up, making us feel uncomfortable, making us feel scared. We don't want that anymore. And so, fortunate enough, we had someone who was familiar with PAL, and that was the former commissioner of Parks and Recreation and Youth Programs, and that was Otis Jennings. He was a kid in PAL in New York City. And he went to the mayor, the county executive, the chief of police, and said, if you want to build relationships with kids, you have to start a PAL program. You have to start the Police Athletic League.
I spoke with Mayor Walsh, and I said, it's time. It's time for us to do it on a comprehensive, larger level. I was doing pieces of it when I was Parks Commissioner. So the timing was right. He got Chief Buckner involved. He got County Executive Ryan McMahon involved. We all had a meeting, spoke about this. They thought it was a phenomenal idea. And then the wheels started turning, and we started getting people in place that would be good and committed to running this. Jimmy Oliver was a young man that I worked with when he was in school, and it was something that he always wanted to do and strive towards those goals. He became Deputy Commissioner of Parks, and then he took over the role as the director of the Police Athletic League.
The mayor, a few weeks later, came to me and said, "Jimmy, would you like to lead this new initiative on behalf of the city?" And I said, "Sure." He said, "I knew you would say that."
The director now, Jimmy Oliver, as I've said many times, you give me 10 Jimmy Olivers and I'll be out of a job because crime will be taken care of in Syracuse. I'm a firm believer that sports develops character, and character develops a crime-free life. I do not prosecute a lot of people who have good, upstanding moral character. I usually prosecute people who, are consumed by, addictions or mental illness or, insatiable appetite for drugs or money or power or guns. And I think the Police Athletic League is a great way to steer kids away from that lifestyle.
Sports is just universal, regardless if it's soccer, regardless if it's basketball, if it's football. For some reason, most kids just love sports. Obviously, living in Syracuse, Syracuse football, Syracuse basketball is huge, whether or not you play it or not. So I think just the sports is just a better way, I think, to connect, just because it's like a universal thing where if you like playing it, that's great. If you don't like playing it, people still tend to still like to watch it.
Putting our young people in front of law enforcement consistently through constructive programming, through activities, helping them see their full potential to become leaders, to become educated, knowledgeable.
Nationally, the Police Athletic League, and you have to look at the roots and the basic concept. Arthur Woods in 1914 in New York City, major metropolitan area where kids were having tremendous social issues. So what he did was he started what was called a police athletic league, but it really did not have that title. He just wanted to create a recreational opportunity for youth to keep them out of trouble, to keep them off the streets and juvenile delinquency, etc.
Police Athletic League is a great idea, led by Jimmy Oliver, director, supported by the mayor and the chief of police. It was very important to give back to the community. You've got volunteer police officers that are coaching the youth here, Syracuse. And so they're being able to learn life skills through being on basketball teams, learning teamwork, learning leadership, and learning and developing, good habits that they can not only apply at home, but at school and in life.
Sports not only teaches you, teamwork, but it also teaches you leadership skills, how to put your differences aside and come together, as a team to accomplish a goal.
What I think we need to keep in mind is that the Police Athletic League is not only, in my opinion, a social organization, but also a civic organization which teaches young people civics, civility, respect for their neighborhoods, respect for authority, because in our society we have to have levels of authority that we respect so we have civil order, and that's what the Police Athletic League has done.
We want to develop the whole person. Sports is one piece, academics is another piece, job training is another piece. After I'm buying my first house, or I'm getting married, or I'm moving to a new city, what is that going to look like? And I think a lot of our kids go through that, but since they're 20 and 21, we say, "Oh, you're an adult, you'll figure it out." But what I know is that we have to continue consistently and coach our kids, because that's what my mentors did for me. But once they get in the door, we want to put them in front of authors. We want to put them in front of business owners. We want to put them in front of teachers. We want to put them in front of the people who are making the decisions in their community. We're trying to build a community. We're trying to build a culture, because if we have good communities, we're going to have good kids. And that's what we really need to focus on, building our positive communities.
Jimmy Oliver, Director Jimmy Oliver of the Police Athletic League is phenomenal, hands down, that he knows the needs of the community. He has the pulse of the community to be able to answer a lot of these issues and be able to find solutions, to be able to bring the youth to these types of situations, to make sure that other resources, other community organizations are involved. The politicians that need to be involved. It's great to have those types of people or a type of person like Jimmy Oliver. I don't know too many people like Jimmy Oliver at all, that are as sold on like, hey, I need this for my community, and working tirelessly to get it done.
We've got big city problems in a small city in Syracuse. It's essential for us to get out and with these kids and to try and just show them a positive way, like the speaker we had talking about the struggle that he had to get through to achieve success. I want every one of these kids to leave here not only feeling confident about basketball, but confident that they can be successful. And that's why we want to build and grow, and if we can expand skills on the basketball court, we can expand skills in other places.
People tend to say, Jimmy, you're a unicorn. Everybody's not, like you grew up in the hood and, you the only one. No, I'm not. I'm not. If you go into these neighborhoods and talk to these kids and see their struggles and they're graduating from high school, it's because certain people in their community stepped up and helped. Their parents stepped up and helped. But we have to, again, illuminate those things. We got to put them out there, and too many times we're not putting it out there. We're putting the negative.
The relationship between law enforcement and the community is 100% broken, I'll be honest. Trying to rebuild that back through the kids, to start there, to bring the parents involved, it's a great way to honestly get back into the community.
The younger generation of kids, a lot of them, sometimes have the perception that cops are supposed to be scary or cops are bad. And this gives them the opportunity to actually see law enforcement from all over the county actually working with each other, working with the kids, and building like a rapport.
Our society can be kind of fractured at times. And to me, it's very, very important that they see me as a human, and that I see them as human beings too, instead of with whatever label we want to throw on things.
We don't get to see a police officer in their everyday environment like this, so interacting with kids, with police officers in this environment where they're the coaches, their mentors, they get to see police in a different light.
It's very important that the kids see us in this light as a coach, and just show that we're normal people, not just somebody in a uniform. Sometimes it can be a negative experience that the kids are having with police for various different reasons. So it's good to actually have a positive light and show them that we are, normal people.
Us just coming into the police station and doing something is exposing the children to get them that negative attitude like out the window, right? So we have dance here in the police academy or in the police gym, but for them to interface, I think us building or knocking down those stigmas that they see on TV, like all police officers are bad and all police officers are doing things. I haven't had the opportunity to show the girls everything, but I want them to see that all people aren't bad, right? All people that wear badges or ride around, they could be in the neighborhood. You can walk down the street, or you can walk in the building and you can see a positive police officer doing great things.
Actually getting to learn the police officers behind the badge, see them as individuals, especially with basketball itself. That's a great way to build a relationship easily with the kids. Kids look up to parents, adults in general, especially law enforcement. My son himself, he actually said he wants to be a cop when he grows up. So having him play under police and law enforcement is a great way to make him not only a better person, but to see police as individuals and not just as a job.
If I see someone every single day, I know that individual by name. I have a relationship with that person. If something negative happens and that individual comes, that person diffuses the situation, because it's going to be like, oh, that's Sergeant Sieber.
I come from the same background as a lot of these kids. I want them to know that whatever they want to do, if they want to help people, it's a great way to do it, great way to give back, and just to get involved, And I think that it goes a long way You know, when you show them outside of what you're doing in normal clothes, outside behind the badge, what we do, you know, and that at the end of the day, we're just here to help, but also pave the way for these kids to have a great time.
Relationships with people that they don't typically get to see every day, I think is impactful, and we need to do that more consistently.
Just think about it logically. A police officer arrives on a volatile scene. He doesn't know what he or she is facing. You know, is it an active shooting case? Is it a hostage situation? Is it some type of armed robbery? Is it a kidnapping? And as opposed to saying, hey, you, he says, hey, Jim, you remember me, Officer Smith? Oh, yeah, hey, Coach, how you doing? Totally different situation. You develop trust. You know that this guy might be wearing a badge and a gun, but he was your coach for, you know, X number of years, and you developed a rapport, a relationship, a friendship, a trusting friendship with him. It's literally the difference between, you know, being with someone that you know and feel comfortable with, as opposed to being in a room full of strangers and feeling awkward.
We fear the things we do not understand, all right? And the more that you're going to understand those things and the more you know about them, you're not going to be fearful, but you also might be intrigued by those things, and you might be attracted to that. And so I think when you talk about PAL and that type of situation, I think there needs to be a little bit of a shift in helping them understand this is, you know, not just, hey, I'm a human being, and let's interact in a way that we can be respectful of one another, et cetera, which is great. But also let me teach you a little bit more about what I do and why.
You know, police-civilian confrontations, by definition, are oftentimes tense. You know, you might be treating this individual as a suspect. You might want to pat him down and make sure he's not carrying a weapon. On the other side, the civilian side, is, I don't want to tell you anything. You're going to take a statement for me, then you're going back home tonight. I gotta stay here in the hood and deal with the people that I just told you about. And you know, and those things, they can so easily be diffused and avoided if it's a more personal interaction between people that care about each other.
We want to give them something positive to do. We want them to be around positive individuals. We want them to be around, you know, competition as well, because that's a part of growing up as well. And we want to teach them some skills, some education pieces. So yeah, all of those things will deter kids from making those decisions. If you keep them engaged consistently, they will not have time to think about being in a game, because they don't have time, because you running them from 2 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And in those times, they're doing athletic, they're doing food, they're doing, you know, homework, they're having guest speakers coming in.
The mentorship is much more important than the basketball coach. I'm not a basketball coach. I'm a police officer, you know. But I know how to talk to people, and I like to get out and talk to kids whenever I can, not just here, but anywhere on patrol. But here, it gives us a real good focused opportunity, you know, an hour and a half a week with the kids that we can get in.
What the Police Athletic League I saw, which was really comprehensive and helpful, is that if I didn't have a father in the home, that policeman acted as an older brother and a father. Because what they taught us how to do is to talk to other policemen outside of their jurisdiction. And if you're stopped, this is the way that you need to communicate with them.
We've been able to do, I want to say about, 20, 25 opportunities where different folks got to come in the police department, not to pay your boot, not to find out whether you got a ticket or a warrant. I came here because my kids are in a program with the police department, and it's PAL. And that's what it's about. If you do something and it bombs, but I guarantee they have a lot more respect if you're just sitting on the sideline, not doing anything at all. If you're trying and you trust them, you engage them, you give them a voice, they're going to show up. Our teens, just like our young kids, They want structure. They want to be told what to do. They want it to be treated the same. And that, I think that's the thing too. We try to treat each kid differently. No, you got to be the same. You got to be consistent. Nobody has any bearing, not even my nieces and nephews who are in PAL. You know, I may be even a little harder on them, but the expectation is the same for the kid who I don't know.
Let's keep it positive. Nobody likes losing. Everybody here is a competitor. But the only reason winning's fun is because of losing.
At the end of the day, we want them to be successful. We want them to live to be 40 and beyond. We want them to graduate from high school. We want them to get a job. We want them to purchase that first house. You have to have a caring adult meeting with that child for an hour a week, checking their grades, checking their behavior, asking about school, asking them about home life, encouraging them, giving them incentives, you know, those type of things to say, okay, you know, I'm on the right track. You know, can we have an award ceremony recognizing who got honor roll or who got C or better averages? Because if we can do that, it's incredible. And that's one of the long-term goals. We want every kid who started with PAL, we want them to graduate from high school. That's a start. That's the starting point.
To take PAL to the next level, we have to get Jimmy all of the support, and we have to wrap education around it. Because it's good to do all this stuff, and then I graduate, and I can't put two sentences together, or speak the King's English, or do math. What good is it?
We want to make sure we're doing things right. We're being thoughtful about what we're doing.
Well, I feel really confident that if we can get kids in here and we can keep them in as part of these programs, then they're not going to be involved with the more negative sides of life here in Syracuse.
So we just started this program. This is the second year now. So I think if we can get that foundation with the kids, we can build it all the way up until they graduate, you know, high school, and hopefully they have a good relationship with us as the coaches and everybody that's in the program. And if they need anything, they can always come to us.
We would love to branch out. We will have had, you know, Philadelphia has 10 sites for PAL. That would be great if we had one in the city. We had one in the county. We had one in, you know, Fayetteville, Canastota. That would be wonderful, because I believe the kids in those neighborhoods need that as well too.
Jimmy's right to focus on Syracuse. The kids are not shooting each other in Camillus or Manlius or Lafayette, where I live. The kids are shooting each other in a very, very limited number of areas in the city of Syracuse. About 90% of our homicides are committed in about 9% of the city of Syracuse. So those are the kids we got to reach. Now, if we get it booming and you know, we get it endowed and you know, we're well stocked financially, got plenty of equipment, plenty of volunteers and coaches, and we want to expand it all over Onondaga County, amen. That would be great.
I hope in a year we have a facility, because I really genuinely feel that's where we're ready to go. I think our parents are ready to go.
If they wanted to create a whole new designated police athletic league facility, and we could get money from the federal government, from drug enforcement or whatever, and they want to build out something totally new, hey, great. But the key is for PAL to grow, in my opinion, they have to have the facilities and the staffing.
I want to put together a parent committee, like a PTO of PAL. And now we have, you know, parents, and we can bring kids at some point, but get those parents in so they can say, hey, you know, what about this? What about this? You know, I know a friend who flies airplanes, or they do drones. Have you thought about that for your kids? I run an architectural firm. You got kids who love to draw or want to build things. Let's tie them here. And I feel like we can get involved in that in the next year. We would love to partner with different organizations. Like, you know, even though we have partnered with people, but there's other folks, you know, like Street Addiction, Snug, OGs versus gun violence. How can we start building those coalitions as well and exposing their, population to what we're doing in PAL, because I feel like they're a huge piece on what we're doing. And maybe if we want to get really crazy, put us and those individuals in the same space. We're Syracuse PAL, but I believe we can pivot and become Central New York PAL. I believe with the law enforcement agencies that we're touching and are exposed to, I feel like we can move towards that.